Hello, my name's Nathan Bomber Brown, and I welcome you to the Big 12 Mafia Holy Rivals Show. With me are my two key contributors and also my partner and co-host, the Wild Ute. How you doing today, Ute?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing on this Tuesday, this wild Tuesday?
Been
Lots
one
of
hell of
stuff
a
going
Tuesday.
on. Lots of stuff going. Moen's already drinking, so we're making A.
That's right.
Thought about it.
That's the way it goes. Obviously, Moen Show and Immaculate View. How you guys doing tonight?
It seems like it's been a long day, but that's, I guess, what I
Yes.
get for watching hours of a court drama play out.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
So
though.
let me do a shout out here to Oregon State, who temporarily are the co-owners of the Pac-12 conference, and all of its assets and all of its money. But that's a temporary thing, right? It was immediately appealed. We'll get into that later in the show. We've got an expert going to be coming on by the name of Matt Lovelace. Let me read you his bio. He's Washington State. I'll just read it right here so I get it right. Matt Lovelace will be coming on. He's a journalism professor currently at Murrow College. He's a Washington State University Cougar. He's the PA voice for Pac-12 champion WSU Cougar Board women's basketball. He's a TV host and moderator and Washington State Athletics Advisory Committee member. He'll be joining us in about a half hour. So stick with us for that half hour. We're going to get through our picks from the weekend and talk about, just a couple other smaller things. And then, boom, we'll jump right in. So first of all, Ute, why don't you give us an idea of what your weekend was like and what you were watching in football games?
I was watching Washington versus Utah, and that game, I tell you guys that game, Ute fans thought everywhere that this game was really, really going to be a win. And I'm still shocked that we lost the game, honestly. I really thought that. So, number one, kudos to Washington for holding that down, getting that win, and being in playoff contention now. So, seriously, Husky Nation. So, Pickles, Rebecca, all Husky Nation out there. Husky Hawk, awesome job. Cool for you guys. I hope you guys do it. And also, Michigan, Penn State. I was watching that game, and that game was what a football game. Seriously, it was like a gladiator NFL style game. I loved every minute of that, other than the final result. And we'll get into it more, but like it seems like cheating really gets you pretty far in the sport nowadays and everything. And I mean, it's something we have to all consider. If Michigan doesn't get more penalized and they keep winning football games, they win a championship, then hey, you know what? Cheaters get a lot. So something to consider for the future of our sport, because you're going to see a lot more cheating and stuff, and I'm not going to blame anyone for cheating if these guys don't get the hammer job on them.
Exactly. Moen or Immaculate, want to say anything to that?
Yeah, to hell with Washington. That linebacker dropped the ball on the 1 yard line and blew the cover. So you're not getting any kudos.
I won. From me. That's all that matters. Is I won.
You're not getting any kudos from me, Washington. Learn to cover a spread. The Ohio State game spread was 31.5, and they covered. You guys had 9.5 points, and you couldn't
I loved it. It was all tactical. I called DeBoer before the game, and I said, you got to keep it around 7 points.
The future of NIL is make the gamblers happy. Okay?
Right.
Make the gamblers happy. Cover the spread. Exactly. I'm with him on that one. Damn it, Washington.
How do you not score, though, after that happens? How are you going to get a safety next play when that happens? That's the thing. It's so disappointing. It's like gift wrap.
All right. So outside of we know that Michigan's cheating, and we know Washington beat Utah, which was a fantastic game, by the way. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, I'm sure it's. Let's see, who was the broadcast partner for that game?
It was Fox.
It was Fox. So well, actually, I'm not sure you can get their games. I know on ESPN and ABC you can get those games and watch them on ESPN Plus. I don't know if that works for Fox. So if you didn't record it, you missed a really good game. And Utah had a chance. Mm-hmm. There was, in that last 8 minutes, there were a lot of anxious Husky fans, guaranteed. About 8 minute mark, you're like, are they going to do this? Are they going to hang on? So, yeah, kudos to Washington. Obviously, I'm a Washington fan. Wanted them to win. I just wanted you to cover the spread.
You got your wish.
I did. All right, before we get into anything else, go ahead, Immaculate. What were you going to say?
I was going to say it was a good pick. That's it.
I did a few of those, and we're going to get into
you
that.
did
I
all
extend
right.
my lead. All
You
right,
did
here
all
we
right.
go. Just let's get some hellos out of the way. Conundrum's in the house. Jeff Woodworth is here. Casting for Chrome. I did it for you. There's your shirt. Oregon State wins today. Let's see here. Immaculate. Oh, no, sorry, that's Immaculate's post. Big Lubbock is here. Again, Jeff Woodworth. Joey Z. Good to see you. Or is it Zay? Joey Zay? Is that right? Joe Zay? He says, I'll sleep better knowing Calford would have made more money if they'd stayed in the Pac-4.
Ooh.
That's
Nice, Joey.
That's a very good take. I don't know if we're going to get into that tonight, but I'm going to have to bookmark that one because that is an excellent comment. We'll come back to that hopefully.
Hey, we've got a new name too. We've got Calford, these names, and now we've got Orgazoo. Orgazoo is the new
By the way, did
Calford.
you make that up?
Yeah, Orgazoo. That just
Okay.
came out tonight. That was just made up.
Okay.
So just remember that on Big 12 Mafia Holy Rivals, Orgazoo.
Hashtag Orgazoo, right?
I'm gonna have to use that.
Why don't you put it in the comment section, so
All right,
everybody
I'll throw
knows
it in
how you
there.
spell it. Glenn Lumen's here. He says, good morning from the Philippines. Let's talk women's sports. BYU has a fantastic women's sports range going right now. The women's soccer is in, I believe, the round of 32 for the soccer league. And women's basketball is just getting started. Utah women's basketball was good last year. And maybe when you get later in the basketball season, we can talk about that. But I definitely salute women's sports in general. Let's see here. G. Brew is here. Sergeant Pickles says, evening all, embraces for the Coug and B victory lap, even though they won't get the money. Some think they will. Well, we don't know what they're going to get yet. It's on hold this second. Kyle Visser is here. PSU Nitwit. Let's do this, he says. That's good. He's here today, even though they lost on Saturday. That was another really good game. Good games this last weekend. Eugene is here. He says, Pickles, I just want OSU and Washington State to have the same option for this year. I don't want them to penalize any of you guys. I would agree with that. I think it needs to be fair. The schools have earned what they're going to get this year. They need to come out and fix that. I agree with that 100%. Let's see if there's anybody else we want to say hi to. PSU Netwit. Earl Carr is here. Good to see you, Earl. And BR's in the house. Hey, all. We got a lot of people here.
What's up?
Man, this is Tony Lawson is here. I know I'm going to miss somebody. If I miss you, I apologize. I just can't read that fast. All right. Let's get to our picks so that we can move on to news items because Ute has to leave in 50 minutes exactly. So let me bring up our picks from last week. If I can hit the wrong thing. All right. Here we go. So let me bring it up. This is the week 11 results. And Immaculate, what do you want to tell everybody about how the week went?
Oh, well, I think I was set to overtake you. And then a couple teams forgot that you're supposed to cover these days.
Mm-hmm.
That's my overall take on this one with my 3-5 and you're 5-3, which was literally 2 games that didn't cover. We would have swapped. But, overall, I think we're looking at here, the spread between us is only 2 games.
Right.
You at the highs of 5-3 and us at 3-5. It was not a whole lot of ground gained or lost by anyone in this. So, as we're getting down towards the end of our pick'em, it's going to get pretty tight. We're, if I'm going to catch you, who's going to catch you? I mean, Moen, he's going to have to get some perfect weeks here. But I think he's got it in him.
So let's talk about that. We're only going through week 13. We're going to do a different tournament for the bowl games. It'll be a different format, and I'm hoping everybody can participate. I'm not exactly sure how to do that online. I'm going to talk to some computer people, see if there's a way to do it. But this is going to run through. I guess we'll do it through the championship games, right? So we'll go through the conference championship games. You guys okay with that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All right. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Immaculate. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. That's pretty much it. Like, I'm looking for Moen to make a comeback that people aren't seeing, but I think he's got it. And I'm trying to hang on and catch you, and Wild Ute's right there with me. So it's going to be an interesting finale to this.
Anyone's game.
It's been a lot of fun. That's all I know. I love fun. All right, let's get to the actual games. We'll just start off. I'll read them down the list. If you guys have any comments, just go ahead and just say them. Anything about Texas Tech at Kansas?
KU.
Big 12 strikes again.
Can I get that Jayhawk squawk? No.
You can, but it's the third string Jayhawk squad.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Oh, KU is just so hard to predict this year.
Yeah. I took KU, and that's one of the ones I lost.
Yeah, everyone lost that one. I mean, we were all
Texas. The Big 12 is a whole bunch of middling. That's all there is to it. You got a couple teams that could say, they could fight it out with bigger conferences, but
that's how it's going to look, though. Like, I think, when we talk about how it's going to be this highly competitive conference in the future, this is how it's going to look. You're going to have teams winning games that they're not supposed to, and teams losing games that they're not supposed to. And it's going to be very frustrating. But I think with the 12-team playoff, it'll be better than this year where there's a 4-team, and then this type of stuff can actually cost you. So
agreed.
It'll be good in the future, but this year is kind of
Go ahead, Moen.
No, I was going to say this is their third string quarterback for Kansas, though. So let's not.
Yeah, it's pretty tough at this point.
If Bean was in there, Kansas probably wins this game and covers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's for
quarterback was terrible.
Yeah, Bean is a fantastic quarterback. Hopefully, he's not hurt too bad. Raider Vision, obviously a Texas Tech guy, says, "I'm sorry that Tech had a good game against Kansas." So, I think even they were probably looking at that game saying, "Yeah, we don't have a big chance." So I think it turned out probably the way it was supposed to. Tennessee, Missouri. I was not surprised by that at all.
No way. Tennessee overrated. Yeah. Get out of top 25.
I think the final score was surprising. The fact that Missouri beat them wasn't surprising, but
right.
The fact that they dominated them so bad. Oof. I don't know if
Tennessee and Florida are the most overrated schools this year for sure. I think in college, maybe Clemson.
Missouri might be the most underrated.
USC, yeah.
So bad.
There's a bundle of them. That's true. There are. Miami, Florida State. I think I lost that one. Immaculate, is that the one I missed on the
Yep, they did not meet the spread again.
Right. Yeah, Miami hung in there,
They did.
Yeah. Rivalry game.
It was pretty much what Moen said. Miami overplayed. And
the thing is, Florida State had a chance. There was a couple possessions where if they didn't just screw the ball away, they could have gone up 21.
I tell you what, that game makes me question Florida State being top 4, though.
There's got to be some, because they're questioning Washington for the same thing.
We've earlier in the season, I was like, they got so much talent. We'll see. But now at this point in the year, I don't know. I don't know if they deserve it now.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Utah at Washington. Sorry, go ahead. I was just saying Louisville might actually beat them. That team right there, I think Louisville could beat.
I guess we'll have to see. Utah at Washington. Go ahead and go.
All the opportunities in the world. Yeah, Utah came out hot. Utah was leading at halftime, and throughout most of the first half, Ute fans were losing their minds in joy and exuberance, right? And a lot of Ute fans just felt like this was a game that they're going to win. It was the weirdest thing. You just get that, gut feeling sometimes, and halftime is yes, it's happening. Third quarter comes, Washington starts taking control. Utah can't move the football, has some crappy penalties, but still can't move the football. Gift wrapped an interception, returned, should have been for a touchdown, but the defender decided to drop the ball at the 1-yard line instead of going into the end zone because he wanted to celebrate prematurely.
Can I just tell you, I was apoplectic when that happened. I was absolutely apoplectic.
Oh my gosh, I was losing my freaking mind. I was like, this is going to happen the whole time. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Utah is going to win by 1 point, and just nothing from the offense, just freaking nothing all day long in the second half. And it was just so disappointing. Washington, they got it done. And Utah gave them a punch. So there's that, but just disappointing. They covered, though. So it was a 7-point defeat, not a 10-point defeat. So there's that solace. But disappointing loss. Let's see the Pac, get into the playoff and make some noise for the first time in 10 years, right?
Agreed.
Before the spans here.
Immaculate Moen, you want to say anything to that?
Didn't cover the spread, but good job, Utah. I was I actually didn't think you guys would be able to run with them like you did. But good job, Utah, and good job in Washington on closing out.
And I think Washington looked good at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That spread made them look like, give them respect.
I think they made the better adjustments at halftime.
Right.
Yeah.
That linebacker made me put $14 in the swear jar.
It's not only that, too. There was a missed field goal, like a 35-yard field goal that would have beat the spread, too. You guys, like Washington tried to give it to Utah. It's so crazy. Hey, but here's something to note about the game, too. We talk a lot about TV ratings, right?
Yep.
This game got a really good TV rating for a Utah football game. It got a 5.2, 5.3 million viewers, which, it's not Ohio State numbers. It's not pulling 9 or 10. But that is a massive rating for a Utah regular season football game.
I agree.
And honestly, that's the biggest rating that Utah's gotten in a regular season game, I think, ever outside of the Pac-12 championship or a Rose Bowl. I can't remember anything even coming close to that. So kudos for that. I think there's a little bit of a drift coming off Penn State, Michigan, where folks probably just kept it on and everything. But still, I mean, I'm stoked about that. That's the big win of the day for Ute fans.
I'm just glad Washington won. Iowa State at BYU, there's nothing to say there except for BYU can't even get the right cleats. Their people were sliding and slipping all over. It's their home
That's
field.
Your own field, too.
Yeah, it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. So, they have 2 games to win 1 game. We'll have to see. The odds aren't that they're going to do it. But for some reason, Kalani came out today, or was it yesterday, and was very, very pumped about the opportunities that might be coming this weekend. So I would not take BYU in any shape or form, but who knows? They may overperform.
I should have listened to my warnings to you. I didn't listen to my own warnings about Iowa State coming in on a night game and how they don't really get affected. And they definitely, I mean, BYU is a tough place at home with all the noise, just everything that goes on there. And ISU just didn't seem to care. They've been in a lot, they've gone into Oklahoma State in a similar type of game and upset them at home. So they just seem to do okay with that.
Let's quickly get the rest of these because we're going to want to get to Matt when he comes in. USC, Oregon.
No surprise.
Want to say anything about that?
No surprise.
Yeah, Oregon didn't cover either, even though they could have got a touchdown in the last minute and a half to cover the spread, and they refused to do it. So now I hate Oregon too. So look forward to next year. I got a reason to really hate Oregon going into that game.
Okay. USC is who we thought they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line there. Ole Miss, Georgia, not a surprise for me.
Georgia is scary.
They are so good, guys.
I want to see Georgia and Michigan because they're so similar, but I think Georgia. People have been, pooing them being the number 1 team. And I was like, well, 2-time champions, haven't been beat. You kind of got to keep in there, but I think they have now proven that they are the best team in the country right now, or at least they deserve to be there. Whether or not they are or not, we'll see.
I totally agree, and I think Ole Miss is exposed, right? We didn't know who Ole Miss was, but the way that they just got thumped. I mean, they're a top 20 team, but they're not a top 10 team.
Kiffin's leaving.
To where?
There's a lot of openings wherever he wants to go.
A&M? That'd be an odd fit.
There's people who are saying no to that, and I don't know. I think he might be exactly what they need there. That's what they need. They need offense. I mean, they got enough studs. You can have a defense there with just studs, but I don't know. I would look at them.
Sorry, I'm just typing a note here. We're going to have Matt coming in here in a minute. So there was no surprise there. Anyway, and then Michigan, Penn State, again, it was a great game. I'm not sure what else you want to add to that, guys.
It was just a battle of gladiators.
It was brutal.
Yeah, and when you're watching an NFL game live, it feels like you're in a gladiator arena. NFL games have that feel. Watching this game had that same type of feel where you're just these are very physical, great. This team, I just loved watching the football. The net result of Michigan winning sucks so bad. And I'm so fed up, guys. I'm so fed up with this us against the world mentality. You knew they were going to bring it, but us against the world, that's great and stuff when you're not cheating. But when you're cheating, having that type of mentality, it's like these entitled guys. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. I want to see Michigan lose so bad. A little bit of bias going on here, but yeah,
I can't wait
game.
to see that Michigan offensive line and running back core go up against Ohio State's defensive front. That is going to be something very interesting because Penn State's also very good in that regard. Or Ohio State's kind of backed up by an offense though, and that helps the defense kind of play it a little bit better when you know your offense is going to support you.
Who's up for this weekend? Or not this weekend, next weekend when the game is on. Who's up against that? Does anybody know? From the SEC, for instance?
If they're smart, nobody.
Nobody would do that, right?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to schedule that.
You don't schedule against Michigan, Ohio State normally. This year,
I would agree.
You put your worst game on that you have to put on. Like some team that, okay, we need to have them on twice a year. Put them on right there.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt on Fox.
You cover something that's part of your contract that you have to do. That's it.
Right. Okay. Any other comments about what happened? We made it through.
Yeah, Drew Aller is ass. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You can throw as many offensive coordinators as the bus as you want, but Drew Aller played like ass. He is ass. You're never convincing me that kid was a 5-star coming out of high school.
Okay.
Oh.
Damn.
That's hilarious.
Harsh.
Thank you, Moen. I appreciate that. Always the truth meter is out there. All right, I'm going to tell
Nitwit is about to kill you, I think.
Aller played bad though. Like,
I don't think
big moments he hasn't really
think...
shined, right? Like, it's
I agree
unfortunate.
with that.
Yeah. Nitwit said in chat, he said Chip Kelly is offensive coordinator for Penn State in the future.
So
I think they should do that.
Before we get off Penn, no, you're okay. Before we go off Penn State though, why can't they get a quarterback there? Why can't they get like a Rashada that's now at ASU that was gonna be at Georgia? Why can't they get one of these Elite 11 guys?
Aller was Mr. Football Ohio.
he was
5-star.
But
Ohio State wanted him. He went to Penn State over Ohio State.
He doesn't show 5-star talent,
and that's I think it's coaching. Personally,
it's coaching.
Yeah, he doesn't look 5-star to me.
No, he does not. Yeah, and I think that they need to bring in someone who can really work with them, and that's where I really like the idea of Chip Kelly maybe coming there as offensive coordinator.
Well, he's on the road again, so
one hell of a combo if you got him and their defensive coordinator as your coordinators. That would be an all-star team of coaches. If you can't win with that, you got problems.
When was the last time Penn State had an elite quarterback?
That's what I'm saying. It's been a while.
It's like I can't. Kerry Collins, seriously, back 30 years ago.
Bernie Kosar,
right?
Bernie went to Miami.
It's always a strong defense and a great run game.
Who was against him? Where did
Rutledge? Rutledge was
Rutledge. That's right. He was.
That was 83.
I can't think of anything over the last 25 years, though.
When they won the national championship, what was that, 89?
Oh, shoot.
Who was that quarterback? Was that Rutledge?
No, Rutledge was out of there in 83.
Okay. When Penn State won was it 92 when Penn State won? I can't recall. But whoever their quarterback
I think it might have been Kerry Collins.
Okay.
Kerry Collins was good.
Another guy that was okay, but do you think of him?
Wasn't Todd Blackledge a Penn State guy too? Todd Blackledge.
Yeah.
They had some good quarterbacks back in the 80s, early 90s, but it's been a long time.
I think it's got to be because they don't want to go up against Ohio State and Michigan. You want to go somewhere else to win. That's my guess.
Yeah, Ted's agreeing. It's Kerry Collins.
Big Ten. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kerry Collins was the last great one.
Okay. Trace McSorley and Sean Clifford are the top 2 QBs statistically in PSU history. Thank you, Big Tech Ted. Appreciate it.
What's going on? Why can't they develop a quarterback? You've got to be able to. I mean, obviously Aller's a 5-star blue chip kid, one of the best kids in the nation.
Yeah, I don't get it at all. All right, so on time we have our new journalist, legal analyst from Washington State. Hey, by the way, you need to send me something Washington State that you have sitting in your closet.
Something I got in my closet, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I should bring this up as I come in as sort of the Coug liaison here. Speaking of winning the Pac-12. I'm also a public address announcer
There you go.
for WSU athletic events, and I just received our
No.
Pac-12 championship rings for the women's basketball team.
Right
That is
on.
awesome.
And I'm not giving you that. I'm sorry.
No.
but,
I'm talking like a hat. I'm originally, people are going to love this. I'm originally from the Tri-Cities, Richland.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I know where that is.
Yeah, I know you do. And in that whole Inland Empire area, there's some amazing people. It's a great place to grow up, and I loved it.
Wonderful area, very down to earth.
All my grandparents and uncles worked out at the site, making plutonium. I'm just teasing, not plutonium.
Hey, so Matt, I've
Anyway.
got a question for you. How often do you wear the ring now that you've got it? Are you wearing it right now? Just around?
Well, what's funny is I just got it, and so I, as I said, I'm out here, stepped outside at a dinner with some friends and family, but I needed to show it off a little bit. So I think it's going to go in a glass case somewhere. Special occasions. I deserved it the least of anybody who got one. So I don't want to flex it too much.
I'll tell you what, Matt. I bet some folks are gonna mistake you as like the Seahawks kicker from the World Championship they had about 15 years ago.
Hey,
wearing that ring around.
Be nice to my Seahawks, or I'll come
I like
down
the
on
Seahawks,
you.
man.
You gotta, don't be mean to Seattle. That's the way it goes.
Shout out to Stephen Hauschka.
Yeah, that's right. What's he
right,
doing
yeah.
now? Pumping gas in Ottawa or something like that?
Something
Is
like
he still
that.
in the
Yeah, I'm
league?
not so sure where he is.
All right, we're
It's
gonna have to have you
been a
on
while.
again when we can catch up on Washington State, the Pac-2. We'll do that more in other shows. But today specifically, I invited you on because you've been tracking all these legal announcements and all the coverage from the settlement that they were trying to get, this mediation, and then finally went in front of a judge today. I think all of us, maybe not you, we watched or listened to the whole thing. First, what are your first impressions coming out of that? You got to be a little excited. You guys won.
Yeah, it's good news for WSU and Oregon State. They're going to appeal to the state Supreme Court here. It's going to drag on for a little bit longer. But what I told somebody else who I said, WSU and Oregon State were given a leg to stand on today, and they haven't had anything like that in a long time throughout this process. So that's great. The transfer portal opening up here in a few weeks. They want to have assurances to athletes, not just that they have access to championships, and that's been a big deal here at Washington State. They want to be able to promise athletes, okay, if you come here, maybe we're not the power of the power anymore, but you're still going to be able to compete for titles. Right now, that future is not there. Now, it's going to be there. They're going to come up with a scheduling alliance and things like that, but at least they were given something today that they can promise to athletes, because when that portal opens on December 4th, it's going to sting pretty bad here in Pullman, I would think. But at least there's just a little bit something more there. And then obviously there's the money aspect of it. I don't know what, is eventually going to happen. I'm also on the athletics advisory committee here. And I know that the defendants had worried about Oregon State and Washington State taking all the money, spreading it around or spreading it around to themselves and using it. I haven't heard anything to that effect, but this is going to be a tough hit. And at every single turn, the athletic director here, we have meetings and he goes, I just want to remind everybody, it's going to suck, but it's going to suck a little less as long as that governance issue is cleared up. And so I would say short term, this is a really big, really good news for Washington State. Now they got to put together a football schedule. You guys all saw in the last week or two, every conference came out with their scheduling matrix, and everybody around here was like, great. So who do we play? And so luckily the Mountain West hasn't done that yet. I would anticipate some Boise State, Colorado State on the schedule here next year, but I guess we'll see.
One of our viewers, who happens to be one of our paid subscribers, is Sergeant Pickles. He's the UW guy. He just has a question for you, or a statement. He says, Matt, just hand out this year's paychecks, meaning the 2023-2024 money, the dispersions, and be done with it. Otherwise, lawsuits will never end. Has been one of the concerns, isn't it? Is that the guys with more money could extend this and throw this down the road for years, and Washington State and Oregon State can't live that way.
No, they can't. And, to sort of answer that question directly, I've had a lot of questions like that where my reply has been, if only it were that simple. because one of the things I know Washington State and Oregon State are watching out for is, sure, they could divide current year assets by 12, but there are also these subtractions coming down the pike in the future. There's
Right.
$1 billion lawsuit over NIL money and back pay for athletes. If it's a 2-team league who has to bear the brunt of whatever the Pac-12 owes on that lawsuit, then it's Wazoo and Oregon State paying that share.
Right.
They want to make sure that whatever that money becomes, whatever those liabilities are, well, that's got to subtract from whatever disbursement goes out this year. Otherwise, University of Washington is getting a share from the Pac-12, is getting
Right.
a share from the Big Ten, but not having to pay the Pac-12's liabilities on some of these lawsuits. So if only it were that simple. I think both sides sort of threw these red herrings at each other and said, you're going to dissolve the conference and take all the money. And they said, no, you're going to take all the money and keep it for yourselves and leave us with nothing. It's just not that simple. And so I think that, to the latter point, it still is going to drag on for a while. If you watched the hearing, you heard right at the end, University of Washington said, well, yeah, could you give us a week to write our appeal to the state
Right.
Supreme Court? So we
Right.
already know what's coming. And yeah, that's inevitable that it's just going to take a while. I think there has to be a settlement at some point. I don't think either side, but especially Washington State and Oregon State, can afford to drag this out too long. There's going to have to be a settlement. It's going to have to not financially devastate the two schools who currently are not getting a share of major conference revenue.
Right.
That's a big deal. And so Wazoo and Oregon State are going to fight as long as they can. Time's not on their side, but I think all of this stuff about they can be a 2-team league. There's going to be some weirdness in the next couple of years, guys. A 2-team league who gets to do a scheduling alliance, and it'll feel like we're a Mountain West team, I would guess, but just all sorts of this stuff. It's new ground that we're trying to break here.
Which would you take as a Washington State? We'll just call you a booster, even though you work for the school. Which would you prefer? You get all the money, but then you also have to incur all the expenses. So in other words, everything goes to you, but when you receive everything, you receive everything. Or would you prefer that they tried to dole it out separately? And these guys get this, but then you minus this, and wouldn't it be simple to either be all or nothing?
I would want some sort of compromise in the middle. And, I think you might have caught a little moment there in the hearing where mediation has not gone particularly well.
Yeah, they did say, don't send us back. We're not going to be doing it. Yeah.
Right. And so my ideal situation would be to be fair. I don't think that Washington or Oregon or the rest of them should be deprived of what they earned this year. And there's all sorts of nuance and arguments in there about well, you're going to make that future money because of what we've been. And then the other side goes, well, you're going to make that Big Ten money because what they've been, not because of what you've been. And so I'd say there's a happy medium where they get their share, but it's a reduced number so we can pay whatever bills we got left to pay. But what I really want is to make sure that what we have is the Pac-12 branding. And I think that's really the big concern, because that's super valuable. That's still valuable. And we're being told that a Pac-12 conference that has Washington State, Oregon State, and our favorite Mountain West couple of AAC schools or whatever it is you want to add to it, that conference might be worth about $15 million a year in a media rights negotiation in a couple years. That's triple what the Mountain West gets. And so I think ultimately that becomes the best option. We're not looking at 32 to 35 a year again, but we don't want to deal with 5. And so we're going to have to find that we're not G5, but we're not Power 5. We're sort of that, we're set up to be on the cusp for what is anticipated here as yet another round of realignment sometime soon.
Yeah, that's not done. Ute is a Utah fan, obviously. He has different opinions about how this money should go. Go ahead, Ute.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, Matt, your logic and your thinking are so sound with this that I don't disagree with anything you just said. I think that you articulated it in a really fair manner for everybody and stuff. If there's extra liabilities, just allocate that portion of what you think it's going to be. So, you're not taking away from the earnings that a Utah or a Wazoo or UW or whoever, right? You're not taking the money and everything. You're just, You're just cutting it based on liabilities. Right. So I think that makes a lot of sense. It's probably going to go that way because it's just so easy just going to see that and point to that. I'm curious from Oregon State and Wazoo standpoint, what in your mind's eye, like in a perfect world, given this lawsuit, if they were going to win dynamically, what's the best case scenario that would fall in their favor with this? Not what's likely, what's the absolute best case scenario? Forget everybody else, just for the two schools, Washington State, Oregon State.
I'll say the best case scenario, at least in terms of some of the theories being floated out there, is that the assets are such that they have enough money to sort of buy their way in to a Big 12 conference. Okay. I think that they show their value in whatever way that is. You're going to need money to do that. You're going to need option to do that. Right now, I'll tell you the effort here at Washington State is to get fans to pitch into their collectives and trying to get a way to contribute to paying these athletes. That's something as an old school football fan, I'm a little uncomfortable with passing the hat to fans. I know it's the reality, but I know that that's a big challenge here at Washington State. So I think in an ideal world, what I would love is that whatever value we get out of all of these legal fights is the ability to show that we can sustain ourselves with the big boys in perpetuity, so to speak. I think that's the ultimate goal here at Washington State. Is we have to endure a couple of years of licks while we figure out what the hell we're going to do. But ultimately, it's about remaining valuable. It's about keeping eyes on our product. It's about getting people to show up. Geez, I'll tell you what, we couldn't have been 4-0 at a better time, and we couldn't have lost 6 straight at a worse time. I'm not sure what has happened to this football team, but that's a lot of the perception. The court of public opinion has been on our side here for a couple of months. Luckily, an actual court was on our side today, but I think fans are going to have to show up, show out, pay up, all those types of things. And so we would find our way back into a power conference. I think the long-term vision is that there's hesitancy to actually accept an invitation to become a Mountain West team. And I know that for a fact. That's just not what they envision doing. That Power 5X is a big deal. That committee has members who are student athletes here, and they pulled all of them, and they're all involved in this process. And they say being a Power 5 conference is sort of like the number one issue for us. So that continues to be, I think, the strategic goal. Even as our athletic director continues to go, well, there are realities to this. And so we're trying to keep up with that.
Hey, before I let Immaculate ask another question, the statement he put out Kirk Schultz, a couple months ago that basically was like the Jimmy Carter, where we're all in a morass and going slow and we feel down on ourselves. Did that at all help buoy up your programs?
No, and I'll say this, I work fairly closely with the president on a few of these things, and I think a lot of people want him to be more of a bulldog. Honestly, they want him to come out and go, those jerks, and I don't know how much I can swear on this thing, but they want him to be that guy. They want him to be that bulldog, and he's sort of been, he wants to be a nice guy. The perception matters a whole lot. They want to know that he wants people to know that he's working hard. I would say the best day that he's had as president this year was when the lawsuit was filed. I think today is a good day too for the university as well, but it showed backbone. Maybe that's what fans want more than anything else. So, I don't know if you want to take Twitter discourse as any sort of sample size of how people are feeling, but he's been sort of, taking it, and not in a good way from even our fan base over here. They want him to rip the opponents to shreds, so to speak, even in the courtroom. So the only couple of good days are when he filed the lawsuit, and then I'd say today when they won it.
Okay. Immaculate?
Where to start? It's a little bit circular, but I guess first off, congratulations. Watching the court case today. It was a big day. I did actually think that you guys are going to win. It was never quite sure. The stipulation was actually tougher than I think most people realize. With that open end, it leaves you kind of having to be, watchful and careful about giving those schools any reason to basically go to the court and gripe about it. But were you familiar with your president's statements to Wilner over the weekend? Did you see that article?
You might have to remind me of those ones.
I have it marked here.
If you want to bring it up for they're very strong. So I think actually seeing the specifics.
You're talking about John Wilner, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got it right here. Hang on. Let me bring it up. There you go.
So as we go through this, and you'll find a little bit more as you go further down into this, he speaks with a lot of strength here. And I've actually been a little critical of him back in the past before the breakup. But I do think these had kind of found a different life to it. And in here, he goes directly into the fact that you guys are now ready to negotiate with the CFP. And I found it interesting that this came out the weekend before, this decision came in. Was he feeling pretty strong that you guys are going to get this decision by the court?
Yeah, they certainly felt strong about the case. I don't think there was ever much of a doubt, not that they would say, oh, I don't know how strong our case is here. But I mean, ultimately, as you heard from the judge, it came down to actions speak louder than words. And so that ended up being a bigger deal. I think they always knew that. And so they felt really strong about the case. I hadn't read this Wilner article. I'll have to catch up on some Mercury.
Yeah,
News
we'll get you the
get
link. I'll send you the link for that, Matt.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, strong language is what we need here. I mean, it would be, there's been a couple of times where he's sort of come out and said it early on in the process. He was sort of quiet, I would say, up until maybe mid-September. And then, it's all strategic. He did a podcast with a WSU regent who does a regular show. And he started to become a little bit more forthright with here's what we want, here's what we want to do, and here's what we think our case is. I don't think there was much nervousness. I mean, other than the possibility that the worst case scenario could happen for whatever reason. But I think they came to the court today pretty confident that they would win. If you ask me, I think the University of Washington attorney came to the court thinking that that WSU and Oregon State would win today, which is why most of that 3 hours was spent not arguing about governance, but about, they reached out to the Big 12 on August 5th. They were trying to leave too. And you sit there and go, of course, they were trying to figure out what to do. So, yeah, I think that confidence was high.
Yeah, he definitely came in very strong at the start of his presentation, the Washington lawyer did. But we were in a kind of a chat during it, and I notated that at one point in time, he changed course. And it became much more about wanting to make sure that, that there were some stipulations put on OSU, WSU leadership if they got it. And that's when it became clear to me. I even said, like, oh, this is over. They're going to get it. But they got what they wanted, right? They got the ability to be there and have a say in it. So I think that, would you say that this puts you guys now in a position where you're comfortable to sit down and then come up with a settlement? Because it felt like when it was just 2 against 10 and maybe even 2 against the world, when we were also talking about the CFP, which is a lot of what your president talks about in this article. Do you think now you guys are sitting in a position where you'll be comfortable to make a settlement?
Well, as of this moment, we're sitting in a position of power. So I would say that is what's more likely to bring the departing 10. I'll just use that shorthand to the table, because I guess ultimately Washington State and Oregon State could do whatever they want. Now, that's not what I understand to be the intention. But if that's a real fear of the departing 10, then it's incumbent upon them to go, okay, well, then here's the deal that we need to get out of it. I think ultimately that will help mediation and negotiation and things like that. I guess I don't know how you arrive, sort of what we were talking about earlier, at the happy medium of, yes, let's be fair. Let's distribute the 23-24 assets, but subtract those liabilities so we're not sunk in the future. I guess, how do you get there without mediation? Otherwise, Washington State and Oregon State change the bylaws, take all the money and go. And so that's sort of the position of power I'm talking about. You gotta, if you're the departing 10, you gotta find a way to not let that happen.
Moen, do you have something?
Yeah, I was wanting to ask earlier, shortly after Washington and Oregon left for the Big Ten, they sort of put out a tentative olive branch about maintaining the rivalry games, and it seemed to be shot down. Do you think that there's a possibility that we keep the Apple Cup and Civil War going, even if it means moving them to the earlier part of the season?
The short answer to that is yes. If you ask Cougar fans right now what they want, it's no. Let me try this. Do you guys want the Apple Cup? I don't think so. So the sentiment among fans over here is, screw you guys. You're taking the house into the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to compete against your $50 million a year revenue distribution when we get 5.5 from the Mountain West. That's not fun. And Washington State, we have a rivalry with Idaho across the border. It's not a rivalry, and the Apple Cup would be that. So there's that sentiment. Then there's just the spiteful, like we don't want to see anymore. However, my short answer contradicts that, and so I know that the athletic director here understands that game is really valuable. I mean, that might be worth a couple million in and of itself, and to get rid of that revenue would take quite a bit. So I think what needs to happen is there needs to be some sort of agreeable. Let's not play all of them in Seattle, maybe. I know the University of Washington athletic director on his introductory press conference pretty much shot the idea of a home and home down, which
I saw that.
Great.
Yeah.
Welcome. Good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And I know the president sort of was like, oh, we haven't talked about that kind of stuff yet. I think that UW's ideal world is we get to play at Husky Stadium in odd years, and we'll play at Lumen Field where the Seahawks play in even years.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound great to Washington State fans. And so sentiment is a hard no over here. My sense is that it will go on. I know UW's got an open date on like September 14th of next year. If I'm 60-40 that we're going to play that game. I think the Cougs might play in Seattle on September 14th of next year because it's a valuable game. Fox might put it, in a great slot.
Yep.
As much as I hope UW loses every single game for the rest of eternity, they're a great brand right now. They're a good draw, and so to see that rivalry, especially how many courtroom storylines are going to come out pregame on some sort of beautiful day mid-September in Seattle, I could totally see that happening.
Ute.
Yeah. So to kind of loop this around here, so with the suit at this point in time, what would like the diabolical worst case scenario be if things didn't swing in Oregon State and Wazoo's favor? I just want to know like the polars and kind of how you see things, best case, worst case, and then obviously you've already spoke to like the intermediate and everything and kind of how you see it shaking out with the reduction in distribution based on the liabilities. But what's the worst case like scenario here?
I mean, worst case scenario, which isn't totally off the table. Obviously, today's ruling, it's not easy to overturn a ruling in the Supreme Court because you don't get to provide new evidence or anything like that. Worst case scenario would have been certainly all 12 schools meeting there on September 13th and going, all right, let's sell the building in San Francisco and let's dissolve the assets and we'll just split it all equally 12. And that's like $60 million. Great. Let's all go home with our money and then take the ball and go. That certainly was the worst case scenario because it leaves us with this one-time payment of the dissolution of our conference. But then, there's little things like you got to fire a lot of people in the athletic department because you can't afford them anymore. We're already operating in the red in the athletic department, as many schools are. Worse so here than I would say at most. Couldn't afford the coach anymore. Probably couldn't afford the athletic director anymore. You'd be talking total upheaval staff-wise. You'd be talking devastation recruiting-wise. And so worst case scenario involves having to go to the Mountain West. I don't think there's anything worse than that on the horizon for Washington State. And by the way, like emotionally speaking, I would say I used to cover Mountain West football and as a sports reporter. I covered Boise State. And that was Kellen Moore era Boise State. They went 50-3 in a 4-year span.
Yeah.
I watched that program struggle mightily to get respect when they were 13-0, and now that the system's changed a little bit and there's that automatic qualifying bid for a G5 school, I mean, as a Mountain West team, Washington State, with the facilities they've been able to build as a Pac-12 school, you could live a pretty darn good life as one of the best G5s in perpetuity. No one wants to hear that In fact, hearing it myself, I'm like, why are you saying this? Because that's not what we want out of it. So the worst case scenario, I would say, after all of that, is we're a very, very good G5 program. Even if we've existed for most of 100 years on what we had hoped would be a level playing field with everybody else.
It makes sense, and also like the likelihood of you making the playoffs in the G5 with that automatic qualifier is much more high here than if you were in the Pac or elsewhere and stuff. So I would say that, as a Ute fan outsider, for any Pac school that was in the G5, with the facilities, with everything, the infrastructure. So that is room for optimism right there.
Yeah, very
all
much.
right, we've got 5 minutes left with Matt. Matt, we're gonna have to do this again. Definitely.
I love it. Thanks, guys. Yeah.
You bet, of course. Go ahead, Immaculate.
Oh, if you want, and with limited time, I was going to say, I actually think that the situation isn't quite as dire as some of your fans might think. With the CFP, you guys do have that secured power conference payout, even if you do end up with the Mountain West, and with it's 6 to 8 now. At next year, it could be upwards of 20 million if you're just kind of go by 3x multiplier. If you do get that 15 million payout for a conference, that'd be pretty big. And then if you guys are able to dominate that and actually get into the CFP, which, you guys or Oregon State probably could do that. That's another 8 to 10 million or more for a single team payout. If you're looking at that and that say adds up to about $45 million, high end, that's a lot more than you guys have been getting now. Would you guys look at that as a win? Or are you guys still pretty much on board, you think, with we really need to get into a P5 conference and somehow we need to spin this, turn this, negotiate our way into that?
Yeah, I guess my answer to that would be there is time to find out a whole lot more information about exactly how long all of those things will last. We talk about being Power 5. What does that mean? Power 5 is sort of a designation that is made up. It's sort of that, what do they call it? A5 or,
Yeah.
the 80% share to the conferences. It's the payouts, 80% to the big boys and 20% to the rest. I think ultimately they'll want to work, they'll want to work back up to that. I think that's part of what this fight is in maybe, Immaculate to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
The win today is big in terms of that kind of stuff in the future. I think, NCAA, there's like $60 million in NCAA tournament payouts and getting at least our share of that. And so, I think there's some of that future money they're trying to figure out what to do with. I'll say this, that the Pac-12 has been difficult to get data and documents from when it comes to assets and liabilities. And so even as we ask, I talked to WSU's president tonight, and even as we talk about that, they just aren't sure. They aren't sure what those figures are going to be, and it's hard to chart a course forward if you don't know exactly what you're going to get. And so, I could talk forever, but ultimately, I guess my answer was I don't know. I don't know exactly how that all figures into the future plans for Washington State.
At the end of the day, it's about perception, isn't it, Matt? You want to be perceived to be with the big dogs. That's what we're talking about here. Is the world's perception of you is completely different between those two letters in the alphabet.
And the student athlete's perception. And that's the big deal as people are making their decisions about where they want to go. I mean, do you want to go to Washington State University in Pullman and go compete for a championship? Is that a sentence that excites you? Yeah, right. I guess ultimately that's what it's all about. I grew up a Coug and I wasn't an athlete, so I didn't have to worry about half this stuff. So I'm very proud. I'm here, ready to go. But I was never an elite athlete, so I'm not one to answer that.
I think the roadmap's down the road over in Spokane and Gonzaga basketball. Really, that's what we're talking about. That's best case scenario and stuff. You've got the infrastructure built. So if you build like a program like that, successful G5 program, get to the playoff, you might be able to build something special there.
I agree.
There's nothing else like that. You're not you're in kind of your own little different realm and everything that you can succeed. So it's compelling.
And it's a big deal that Washington State has been able to do what they've done the last few years, building a giant new press box, a football operations facility. They just broke ground on a brand new indoor practice facility. We'd immediately be the nicest school in the G5. So, you hit on a few of those guys. I mean, that's been sort of Washington State's life. You know, Ryan Leaf took us to the Rose Bowl, and then we went 0-8 the following year. That's just what it's been like at Washington State University for a long time. Ultimately, that probably doesn't change. You hit on the right coach. Hope they stay longer. I mean, if we want to be the Gonzaga model, then we have to get Mark Few and keep him for 25 years. So
yeah, that's true.
Super easy. So
Well,
yeah, that's the reality there.
Matt, we really appreciate you coming on. Your insight specifically about Washington State and Oregon State by extension has been fantastic today. I congratulations for the win. And we'll just hope for better things down the road. I want Washington State. Honestly, I've said this months and months and months ago. Both Ute and I think it was in April, said we would prefer, before anything with realignment had really settled, we said we would rather Oregon State and Washington State be in the Big 12. So there's a lot of people pulling for that. There's just a lot of barriers. I guess the big question for you, and then you can answer it or take off, I'll leave that up to you. But the big question is, if they do get the big win, if they do get the big money windfall, is there an option for them to buy their way in to the Big 12?
I have yet to hear that as a legitimate option or as part of the strategy. I say I'm on this advisory committee. I don't mean to sound that as a flex, because we don't advise on anything. We get information on things that have already happened.
Really good.
So I'll say that we aren't totally apprised of all of the strategy. And I don't even know what, honestly, if you ask me, what does that mean to buy your way into the Big 12? I couldn't articulate all of the nuance that goes into it.
Well, that would be the SMU model. That would be the SMU model.
Just taking their distributions for
just
5-10 years.
Whatever, just to keep that what's now going to be an A4, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't even talk P around here. An A4 designation for the 4 big conferences, writing a check.
And that's certainly a possibility. I think that we've spent enough time making fun of Cal, Stanford, and SMU going, okay, you're going to really think yourselves there. You know what? I think ultimately, I think there's this level of like, we're just going to wait for those next dominoes to fall a little bit. What Washington State wants is enough to support themselves in the short term. And with the full expectation, I mean, 2031 is when the next, Big 12 media rights deal is up.
2031, yep.
I'm not so sure that they want to wait those 8 years, but you start getting close to that, then you think more dominoes are going to fall. The Mountain West deal renegotiates at the end of 2026, and that may look different as well. So I think right now that money doesn't buy their way into the Big 12 as much as it buys them time, with the expectation that nothing's settled yet.
Well, so glad you were able to join us. You did it off the cuff for me. You're out to dinner with your family. Thank you so much for being here, Matt. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, I am on Twitter at Matt Lovelace. There's my name. Put it all together as one. That's where I update most information. I'm a teacher here. I'm not a paid journalist to go do this. I didn't make money covering this thing today, but I'm a journalism teacher. And so I just try to lead by example for my students. But I do update threads. I'm a big Seahawks and Mariners and Cougs fan. So all the people who started following me today, sorry for the annoying Shohei Ohtani come to Seattle tweets that I'm about to push out here over the next couple of months.
Is that going to happen?
Oh, if only I could make that happen. I wanted it in 2017.
Texas Rangers just bought a championship. Why can't the Mariners? I can't figure that out.
The Mariners can. They just won't. Oh, yeah. Are we talking baseball now? All right, I'll tell my family. I'm not
All right. We can do that a different day. I would love to talk baseball. I would love to do
All right.
That.
All right.
Thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Take care, Matt.
So great night.
Thanks for coming.
We'll see you later, Matt. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. Oh, my goodness gracious. That was fantastic.
That was really good.
That was good. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. And that's a key that we haven't been able to find is the Washington State angle, right? Mm-hmm. That's somebody that I haven't been tagging in my messages. I haven't been sort of brought into the collective group to share information. So I just found him tonight. He was nice enough to come on, and boy, oh boy, there was some powerful stuff there. I hope we get to involve with him more later.
He made a lot of sense, just laying it out in a fair, equal manner right there. It's probably going to shake out like that. It's not like Oregon State and Washington State are going to get all the money earned this year from the PAC, but they'll distribute some out, but less than you'd expect because of the liabilities in the future that they're expecting to have to pay. That is so freaking reasonable. Just you just don't hear that kind of stuff very often.
Yeah, well, and if you listen to the whole 2-hour thing in court, was it 2.5 hours? The original argument was we're afraid. The Washington lawyer says we're afraid they're going to take all the money and leave us on the side of the road, essentially. And the judges sort of looked at him and said, "Hey, what world do you live in? Where do you think that would be okay? A judge would back that up. Nobody is. It has to be something somewhere in the middle."
It sure does. Yeah. I mean, that was really good stuff, clarity and everything. Good questions. What's your thoughts on that, Immaculate?
I don't know. I'm having a hard time right now about trying not to take a victory lap on something else. So, but in terms of in court, honestly, it went as kind of as I thought. And about halfway through, when we were in our chat, I was saying, yep, it looks like WSU is going to win, but there's going to be heavy stipulations, just kind of based upon the judge's questioning. Whenever these guys were going, at times he would stop them and go into some questions, and you could really kind of get a sense of where his head was at. Because these guys, these lawyers, the lawyer for the Pack was terrible. I mean,
he was really bad.
The dude should just not have even been there. Obviously, the Pack didn't have enough money to really pay for enough billable hours to really come up with a strong argument and be prepared for questioning. And at times, it seemed like both the UW lawyer and the OSU WSU lawyers were just kind of turning and taking side kicks to his head. And there's just not much. It was. I was embarrassed for him, and I'm not a lawyer. I was just kind of like, man, it was bad. But I give kudos. Washington, they made a good argument, and they went in there knowing that I think that they were in kind of a weaker position. And he came out and made a strong start. And then after that start, shifted into where they wanted to get. So, he aimed high. This is where we actually want to get. I think they got what they wanted to get. They wanted to put some reins on OSU, WSU when they do get control of that board. And they did. And without really strong stipulations, everything OSU and WSU does, they're going to have to sit and think back, would this be thought of as, damaging these guys? So I think it ended up well for all parties.
Moen, do you want us to add anything to that? We have to let Ute go, but I wanted to make sure you guys had a second.
Go ahead,
to say
Moen.
something.
You can finish.
I would just say you've got the Washington guy did make some good points, and I think a lot of those points will be brought up again in the Supreme Court case because that's where this is heading.
Yeah.
I think Washington State did benefit from having a local judge, though. He very clearly was on one particular side before I think it ever started. I know judges are supposed to be unbiased and impartial, but I think he did lean a little bit towards WSU and some of his questions that he asked Washington.
Well, and he ruled. He didn't even go through the tiles. He didn't look at all the. Nope. They just went to the ones the guy pointed to. He had already decided what was going to happen. It was more of a courtesy to hold that show today.
Pretty much.
And I think the Pac-12 and Washington lawyers knew that too. They all knew it was going to the Supreme Court. All of them.
Yeah. So this is going to appeal, but they got what they wanted most of all, which is, hey, you can do some stuff, but you can't do the important stuff.
Right.
We've got that week to get that appeal in.
All right. Very good. All right. Do you want to say anything else? Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Good conversation. Got to figure this Michigan stuff out. Drives me nuts. It's stuck in the brain. There's no way we should let this team get to the playoff. We can't let it as fans, as supporters of college football. It's so bad for the sport. It encourages cheating, the back against the wall mentality again. Like that whole idea that they're the victim here is just it's on its head, guys. It's a 180. This is not right. This is not right. Michigan needs to be penalized. They should not be going to the playoff. I really am hoping maybe Ohio State do us all a favor. Bone, if you don't finish that job, seriously, Michigan, seriously.
Like I say, we got the solution right here.
That is the solution.
Before we lose everybody, there's 65 people watching concurrently. There's another 20 or so watching on Twitter. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you subscribe to everybody. I didn't do this at the beginning. Please subscribe to the show. Give us a comment or suggestion. Give us a thumbs up for doing a good show. This last hour has been incredible. And make sure you follow all of us on Twitter. Turn on your notifications. That's another one that's really important, both in Twitter and on YouTube. That way you don't miss when these shows come up, because How many other shows out there that are talking right now or in the last 2 hours have had actual people come on that know what they're talking about? We're not talking about people that just have opinions. We're talking about newsmakers. And on that note, I want to announce tomorrow night we're going to have Bob Thompson on. Bob Thompson's going to come on, and that is a coup if there ever was one. So if you have time to watch tomorrow, I'm guessing it's going to be 8 or 8:30 tomorrow Eastern. Bob Thompson will be here, and if you preload us with some questions, your question could possibly be read. So thank you so much for being. You always bring the intellectual part of this whole thing for me that I miss.
We're just trying to find out the best and worst case scenarios. So good to hear that and everything. Take care, y'all.
All right, have a great night.
Night,
Tell
dude.
your great family said hi.
Okay, see ya.
Okay, all right, bye. Oh
So
my
you
goodness.
said Bob Thompson's going to be here tomorrow?
Tomorrow night. Yep, either 8 or 8:30 Eastern.
Yeah!
Do that again. I was talking.
Hell yeah!
I love it. I love it. I love it. So many people have joined us that I've never seen before. Let me just a couple of names. TSLA Holder. It's Hodler. Cougs by a billion in the Apple Cup. Becky is in the house. Where'd Becky's tweet go? Sergeant Pickles is here. I just saw Becky. Where did she go? Becky says, missed it. Shoot. It's a really good one. You'll have to go back and watch it, Becky. Let's see. Did you guys see any other comments? I just want to make sure I got to them before we moved on. Sergeant Pickles had one. He says, what sucks is Washington State and Oregon State both have at least Big 12 average TV ratings when you do apples to apple comparison. That's a fact. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
I've been watching X a little bit more than I've been watching the chat.
Oh, that's okay. It doesn't matter. All right. I think that's it that I want to get to, unless there's any Moen you wanted me to bring up.
I didn't see any. We were talking. I was going back and forth with Pickles about he wants us to have crew in the Big Ten. I told him we could if we made it full contact.
Crew?
Yeah, like rowing crew.
Yeah, you could like make Super Mario Brothers. You guys throw barrels and sticks of
dynamite. You got to row through the gauntlet. Like we'll be firing at you from the.
I was thinking more like ancient Greece with the big metal thing on the front of the boat that you ram into another boat. Okay, that was just me. I think it would make it exciting.
Another comment here from Sergeant Pickles. He says, and of course the CFP didn't put UW over FSU despite beating a ranked team and them struggling with unranked Miami. I haven't seen that. I haven't looked at the latest ratings, but that's ridiculous.
That's Florida that State West Coast bias.
Yeah,
West
that's
Coast.
more. You mean anti-West Coast bias?
Well,
yeah. That's crazy, Pickles. And Becky, I don't understand how that could be possible that they would do that, but as Moen says, it's all bias anyway.
Yeah, everyone's trying to give FSU something this year. It seems like, hey, be our friend in the future. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. G. Brew says BYU is K-State's biggest friend in the next 2 weeks. Don't disappoint. Yeah, we know. We'll try to knock off the Oklahomas for you. I wouldn't risk your house payment on it. All right, let's get to other news items. We've touched on a lot of the things that we wanted to talk about earlier with Matt, but there was one story in particular that Immaculate set up for a presentation that just in the last 15 minutes has changed.
Yeah, we're talking with Ross right now too.
You're chatting with Ross?
He finally responded, so I'm like kind of in the middle of this at the same time. Live.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a big deal. That's all right. We don't have to extend the show. If you want to get to something tomorrow, if you think it's more important, you chase that down, because what we were talking about is there was these dueling articles. One was Ross Dellinger, one was John Wilner, and they talked about the same topic, but they came to different conclusions, and it was very confusing. I saw Coos come on the show, and he said basically, what's going on? I don't understand what's going on. He said that for a while. Nobody understands what's going on with the CFP, the 5+7 versus 6+6.
Here's what's going on.
Okay.
There's no reason for them to report that the commissioners on one hand have to send something to the board for a vote. And then on the other hand, they can set a policy without the board voting.
Right.
And we questioned that when we saw this come from him on Friday. He tried to Friday news dump at the end of Friday, even though the CFP happened on Thursday. He waited all the way till the end of Friday to report. and say this, and he kind of snuck it in there with some elusive writing of saying like CFP leaders did this. Well, no, it was the commission, and they passed a policy, which I didn't think was possible. I thought they could suggest things to the board, and then the board votes on it, which
I thought they had to be unanimous. They talked
and then
about everything
Saturday,
being unanimous.
Schultz came out with Wilner and said that this exact same thing that Ross is trying to say was passed was actually just suggested to the board to vote on, and that's the 8-team qualifying. You have to have 8 teams in your conference basically to qualify for an automatic qualifier. If you don't have that, then you can't get the AQ, which is what the 6+6 is. It's the first 6 is the automatic qualifier positions for conference champions. So they're basically trying to angle Washington State and Oregon State to go for 5+7 for Schultz to change his vote, because if they're not going to have any chance at an automatic qualifier, then 5+7 actually gives them one more chance to get into the playoff as a ranked team. But reality is President Schultz came out with Wilner and said that both of those situations go to the board for a vote. Now, you can think what you want about Schultz. You can think what you want about Wilner, but that's pretty straightforward. And that's why I brought that up, because in that thing that we showed on just here earlier on the show, he very directly says that. And just now, Ross deleted all of those posts, and he's saying it's due to the graphic imagery that they had to pull down. And he just said right now, in response to me, the commissioners recommended, because I called him out, I said, you may want to also differentiate between the commissioners suggesting a policy on the board and saying the commissioners can actually pass a policy themselves. He says the commissioners recommended a format change that, as we reported, must be unanimously approved by the presidents.
So it is unanimous.
Then he says commissioners established a policy requiring a conference to have 8 members to earn an AQ, a policy that CFP officials say does not, and he puts a little asterisk around not, need presidential approval. Okay, so we have an actual president saying that it does, and Ross, who only quotes Sankey, is saying that a CFP official says that they don't.
That is crazy.
How can you live in 2 different realities at once?
So he is still, even though he took those tweets down, by the way, I have the offline copy of all those tweets.
And I just sent you this.
Let me see the graphic imagery.
Here's the latest one.
He went back and deleted all of them, and then now.
Hey, this is the latest one that I got from Immaculate.
And I just sent you another one that was like 4 minutes ago he posted.
Okay, and does it amend this one?
It's him talking directly to me, and it's not amending. He's doubling down.
Okay, so even though we deleted this, as Moen was just talking about, it says forecasting a 5+7 bracket right now is difficult, as 10 members of the Pac-12 will be scattered to other leagues. Commissioners established a policy last week requiring a league to have 8 members for their champion to earn an AQ. They can pass all the policies they want, but if it's not a unanimous vote, I don't think it's going anywhere. So now let me pull up this latest article. You said you sent it to me?
Yep.
I don't see it.
It's in our three-way. It's in our
our
group
okay,
chat.
I see it now.
Sorry.
Now. Okay. That's all right. Don't worry about it. I just needed to get the link. Copy link. All right. So I don't want to delete that one. I'm going to do another one here. So what you're saying is right here.
Yep. And if you scroll up, you can see him responding to me. Right. We're having this
right
little
here.
thing.
I deleted because of the graphic. Because the graphic included in there.
Oh, okay.
We are reposting soon. Okay. So then here is this repost. The commissioners recommend a format change that, as we reported, must be unanimously approved by the presidents. Again, unanimous.
Yeah, like why is a format change different from a policy? Like it just doesn't make sense.
And it doesn't. It's because somebody's telling him to get this message out.
Yeah.
This is driven by somebody that's a conference commissioner somewhere that is trying to basically put pressure on Schultz to change his vote. It says commissioners established a policy requiring a conference to have 8 members to earn an AQ, a policy that CFP officials say does not need presidential approval. The CFP officials, I think that's the administrative assistant to maybe one of the commissioners, something like that.
That's his way of hiding his source.
It's ridiculous.
Or of like confusing people. Like, well, that could mean a president, so that must be what he means. No,
I like Ross. I think his
No.
reporting has been very fair.
It isn't,
Well-
but right now he's showing himself to basically kind of be someone's mouthpiece, and that's
Yeah.
that's not good.
Yeah,
He's basically saying policies are different from format changes.
which is
And-
different than a rule, which is
which
different than a law.
I guess. I mean, that could be it. I
When he
mean,
said it on Friday, though, I
exactly.
took it as like, okay, this changes things. I was even out posting saying, I'm sorry, guys, this got passed somehow. And then Schultz comes out with Wilner and blows us out of the water. How are you going to refute an actual president? You're going to say he's lying? Like, he's right there actually showing his face. This is someone who's not willing to actually come out and say this. This is some CFP official that wants to be
Which is
anonymous.
nothing. That's a nobody.
Yeah, but
I'm-
Schultz is coming out and directly
I know.
refuting this. And it's
I
just,
know.
I asked him in the chat. I said, this is not what President Schultz reported to Wilner on Saturday. Did you see that report? No response yet. Probably won't.
Conundrum says superfluous, which is a word I used, and I used it in context and correctly. He says Boomer nailed it. So thank you very much. I like to use big words. Makes people think I'm smart. Okay.
Anyways,
So having now discussed that to probably to the end of the day, what do we want to take from all this reporting that's been coming out? I would just tell everybody to hold their water and be patient. The College Football Playoff Committee is putting pressure on Kirk Schultz to change his vote. They're doing it in private. They're doing it in public. They're doing it on Twitter, and they're sending out anonymous officials to pressure him to change the vote so that it's all unanimous, so they can go to a 5x7, so they can go to who can actually be in a conference for it to qualify. Because he's there for 2 years. As long as the Pac-12 is together, Kirk Schultz is there for 2 years. So he's not going anywhere. And that's what this is. This is all just a big campaign to get all of them in the Pac-12, being Washington State and Oregon State, to change their behavior. All the threats about being frozen out if they go this route, because the big conferences won't like them, and so they'll never get in another conference. Could it be true? Sure. But is it also a bald threat? Yes. So I think that's what this comes down to.
I think that they're actually getting to him. You know, when you send out something like this, I don't think this is meant for general public. I think that there are some important people who are like, why haven't you guys in the CFP got this figured out yet? Why is this still going on? And so this allows, you know, a Sankey or someone else to say, look at this reporting. We've got it passed. It's going, like, just to get people off their butt, because that can be easily proved wrong and eventually will be proved out wrong, but it buys them time. And so
and it's the timing is interesting, because just today, obviously the Pac-2 have been extended life.
Yeah.
They didn't disappear today. If the judge had been mean and had said, yep, you guys can disintegrate it right now, the conference would be over. But that's not what happened. They've been given a lifeline. And so as long as that's there, nothing is going to change. I can't think of anything changing, because unless Kirk Schultz gets an under the table, check from Sankey, something that says, hey, you get this to vote with us, I can't imagine why they change their vote. I can't think of one reason.
I mean, there's no reason to. Everyone's like, you're a horrible, you just need to do this. You need to stop holding this, otherwise they're going to relegate you to nothingness. No, they're not. I mean, even in 2026, a lot of things are going to change, not just this. Like, everyone thinks this is a big deal. This is a small deal compared to the whole thing of 2026. I don't think much of this is going to carry on in terms of bad whatever, because 2026 is going to be so different that this isn't going to matter. This is just a 2-year issue. But if they fight through that entire 2 years, it's actually going to have less value. So I think a lot of this is actually going to be worked out here in the short term, now that we finally got this ruling.
I love this picture. Somebody made this picture.
No, that's AI.
That's what I was just going to say. It was an AI generation. Yeah. But it's fantastic, isn't it? The Washington State logos behind them. And they just look so happy, even though they are the mean faces, right? I just love that. I love that so much. And I'm here.
What number is the Beaver wearing?
It looks like a 5, probably, because they're a 5 too. Yeah, why did they pick 5? I wonder.
They did. It's AI. That's why the Beaver isn't wearing a legitimate number. and you see Beavers how it's messed up at the
Yeah.
end. AI has
Okay.
trouble with text.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, I think that's fantastic. I love that. You all saw me just save that picture. I'm going to reuse that at some point because I think it's a fantastic representation. Let's see if there's any of these other. So we talked about. Oh, let's talk about a couple coaching things here before we sign out. We got still 50 people watching on a Tuesday night. I want to thank everybody for being here. If you're new to the show, please subscribe. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. All that fun stuff. Let's quickly cover coaching changes. So Chip Kelly got fired by UCLA. And yesterday, who got fired at TAMU? Who wants to say that?
Jimbo Fisher.
Jimbo Fisher got run. And I'm not sure if I have that. No, that's the other one. No, I don't have the link for Jimbo Fisher, but yeah, both of them got fired. Now, who do you guys think is on the short list for both those programs?
For both?
Yeah. I actually think maybe Oregon State's coach might get looked at by UCLA, just because they're probably going to tell him we can pay you more. Although I hope he doesn't. But I think you got to look at someone like that. I don't know, because UCLA is not going to be like a strong draw in terms of just like straight across the board hires. I think they're probably going to have to look at maybe into the offensive coordinator ranks.
Interesting. Conundrum says Jed Fish to UCLA.
I don't agree with that. I think UCLA is going to get an offensive guy.
Yeah.
I put out there, I think Brian Hartline at Ohio State's going to get a hard look. I believe Atkins at Florida State's going to get a look. They're going to have to get an offensive guy in there. They're okay defensively. It's the offense that has struggled. And if they want to keep Dante Moore there, they have to bring in somebody who's an offensive mind. So I think Brian Hartline's going to get a very hard look. The OC out of Florida State's going to get a hard look. Those would be my two top candidates for UCLA. For Texas A&M, I still think Dan Lanning. I know what Dan Lanning said today. Until he signed a new extension,
exactly.
I don't believe it. I still think they're probably going to pursue Dan Lanning, Lane Kiffin, and I'm going to keep it out there. Urban Meyer, I think, is a coach that Texas A&M is going to overlook all his flaws, and the boosters are going to give him all the money he wants to go out there and win a national championship.
And what do we think about Dion?
I don't think Dion's going to leave Colorado. I think he maybe coaches one more year and then he's gone.
I don't think Texas A&M wants him.
Yeah.
I mean,
I still think
they don't need a splash. They need a real coach. They don't need someone to draw in people. They can already draw in people. They need someone who can actually get those players to the next level.
Dan Lanning has to be at the top of the table as far as I'm concerned. If
he's willing to, he's number one.
DeBoer, here's another one from Sergeant Pickles. He says UW better lock up DeBoer. I would say every school right now better be renegotiating their head coaches and their assistant coaches' salaries, because they're all going to be looking. DeBoer has to be at the top of almost any list, what he's done at Washington. Obviously, Jonathan Smith at Oregon State is huge. You have Lance Leipold and Kleeman. Those guys are both been hot. They're winning in the Midwest in the Great Plains, where nobody really thinks they should be winning. I worry. I think Kalani could be on some of these lists. He's a leader, and he knows how to rally and get people energized about stuff.
I think Lane Kiffin has been advertising himself for a spot. I mean, he's been straight up saying, if only we could recruit better at Ole Miss. I mean,
right. Well, I kind of hope Lane Kiffin leaves, so Jackson Dart wants to transfer to BYU. That would be my perfect scenario.
Yeah, I think Lane's going somewhere. I don't know if Texas A&M and him is a good fit, just because of personality-wise. That might actually be true. That it doesn't work out that way. But I think he could easily slip in somewhere else. But he's going to want to move up. Ole Miss, they have a cap. There's only so far you're going to go there. You're just not. And so I don't know. I've always kind of thought that maybe he would be the number one guy to replace Saban. But Saban's still going strong. I honestly couldn't project when Saban might be hanging it up because at this point in time, he could go another 5 years.
Sarkisian, he could get let go at Texas and hired at Texas A&M.
Maybe.
He won't,
I mean,
not this year. He won't be, but that could have happened if they hadn't won.
I think he's doing good enough that they're probably happy with him right now.
That's fair enough. So UCLA, I don't really care about. We can throw that away. TAMU, Texas A&M is obviously the cherry right now. Do we see any other big schools? Not about schools that could lose coaches that will become open because of it. Are there any other big firings coming at schools that had higher expectations the last couple of years that haven't been winning?
Well, the big talk, and Tony just said it in chat, is maybe Dabo's ready to leave Clemson.
Really? You think so?
And, well, I mean, I don't know. But if, he blames the portal and all this, well, what if he actually wanted to and it just didn't work well for him at Clemson? What if Texas
He brought
A&M?
up 2 national championships.
I know.
How can they turn on him?
I don't think they would. I'm saying him leaving and maybe
Oh.
going to Texas A&M.
Okay.
Because when you look at that one person donation that Texas A&M got, it was something like $200 million, and only 70 some million of that's going to the coach to leave, so they can actually pay the next guy more.
What conundrum brings up Cliff Kingsbury? For one thing, where is he? I don't even know where he is.
He's at USC. He's an offensive analyst.
So could Cliff go to UCLA?
No.
I think he's going to take over for at USC when he goes to the NFL.
Okay, so let's talk about
Lincoln's
him.
Leaving?
Yeah,
I think Lincoln's leaving this year.
I think it's been a plan. I think that Kingsbury was told that from the get-go whenever he went there as an offensive analyst was come hang out for a year or two. Eventually he probably was like, I don't know when I'm going to go, but as soon as the NFL comes calling, I'll go.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. I do think both him and Harbaugh are in the NFL next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't think either one of them stays at their schools. They kind of do the tear and burn like Pete Carroll did, who I love because he was a Seahawk now, but he definitely left USC in a lurch under investigations and other things. That's just sometimes what you have to do. And the next step isn't to go to another school, is to go to the NFL.
Right. And that's where I think Jed Fish lands. I think Jed Fish goes back to Michigan.
Interesting.
I think he takes on the mantle of rebuilding Michigan.
Have we talked about doing a contest with realignment? We should do one with Coach Carousel.
Okay.
If he goes here, then who comes here and who goes there?
Well, we got to wait till everybody's fired first. I mean,
it's fun
unless
watching
we want
them
to
get
pick
fired
who's
right
gonna...
now. Cleveland Rocks. Good to see you, Cleveland Rocks, by the way, who's one of our paid members. Says, who will take the Michigan job after Harbaugh bolts? Who would want the job, especially if they are punished by the NCAA? I agree with Moen and Jed Fish.
Yeah,
I agree.
Jed Fish would take it, even with NCAA sanctions.
Yep,
he has enough desire for that job.
Then there's this rumor, and I don't know if you're still out there, send me a DM, Coos. I wanted to ask about this rumor that I saw, and I don't know why, but it sounded kind of reasonable. This Jimbo Fisher to Morgantown. Did he coach there before?
He's from West Virginia.
Oh, he is. Okay.
He actually almost went back there, but they didn't. He was going to go there after FSU, but they didn't have the money, and so I don't know. There's some story to like he almost went back there again, but the money didn't go through, so he ended up at Texas A&M or something like that. So the idea is that he might go back home to West Virginia now that his stock is down low and he's got a big pile of cash. So
I saw that note and I'm like, really? Why would that happen? I just didn't know. So
yeah, and Jimbo has no offset in his contract. He gets all $76 million.
So he can take a job tomorrow and they're going to
take a job tomorrow and he still gets paid $76 million.
I saw something in a note, and I wish I would have marked the article that said right now in dead coach money for coaches that were fired but still get paid, it's over $500 million in college football right now of dead money. A fifth of that being Jimbo Fisher, right, with his 78 or whatever. But can you guys, I mean, just $500 million of dead money that most of these coaches are going to get paid whether they get a new job or not.
Yeah.
That's insane. I want a job where somebody will pay me to fire me. That would be fantastic. Let's see here. Any other comments? I guess no, I'm not seeing anything from Kuz, so he's probably gone. Let's see. I mean, this is a good question. Neil Brown safe? Is he not? I thought he would be safe.
If Jimbo Fisher wants that job, he's not safe.
There you go. Okay, that's far enough. How about this? Jeb Fish is a Florida alum. If the Gators job open, he's gone. I said at the beginning of the year that the Florida job was going to be open. Go back and watch
I don't think it is this year. I think next year.
It is.
I think they give Napier one more year.
Okay.
They give him that third year with his recruiting strength and see if he somehow turns it around.
I think that's where Dion could go. Is the Florida.
As an FSU alum, you think he would go coach the Gators?
I think so.
Okay.
He loves Florida. He's more about Prime than he is about Florida State, though. When was the last time you heard him talk good about Florida State?
Well, I know Urban Meyer won't go to coach at Michigan, so.
Well, Urban Meyer doesn't want to go anywhere where people are going to look at him and break down everything he does. He needs carte blanche wherever he goes.
Yeah.
The only school to do that.
Law. You don't record another man in a bar. Come on, guys.
I think Lanning could very easily go to Texas A&M. I could see Urban Meyer going to Oregon.
No. I think he goes to Texas A&M and they make him the highest paid coach in college football.
Maybe
that's what it's going to take. He's going to have to be the highest paid.
If that report about that donor is true, they have the money to do that right now.
Well, yeah, I don't know. There's so many rumors right now about the coaches and the carousel. I can't even mention them all. Sergeant Pickles has to take off. He's doing dad duty calls. We're wrapping up anyway.
Yeah.
Guys, we've had a fantastic show. I want to tell everybody, 60 people watching tonight. Tomorrow night, either at 8 or 8:30 Eastern, just turn on your notifications. You'll know when. Bob Thompson's going to be on our show tomorrow night. We're going to talk all about this realignment and, more importantly, the stuff with the contracts and what the fallout is at Michigan. I mean, the storylines, we're going to have to limit ourselves, actually. There's too many things we want to ask him about. That will be tomorrow night. And you're all cordially invited. If you want to be part of the show, you can send DMs to any one of us on Twitter. Engage us in a conversation. If you have a good question, we could possibly bring it on. The other way to involve yourself is you could become a paying member of the channel. Go to the Big 12 Mafia page, and in the middle there's a button that says join. It'll sign you right up, and you can be a paid member. And I defer to those comments first usually, or you can always do a super chat. We love super chats. It helps us keep the lights on around here, and I mean that literally. So how about you guys? Moen, you got anything to say before we sign off?
Yeah.
Your mom goes to college.
That was the second soundbite tonight. That was only 2 guys.
I know you didn't do a clap. Let's do a clap for this super chat we've got from Sergeant Pickles.
Oh, let's.
There we go. Thank you so much for that, Pickles. I know you're not around, but I really appreciate the super chat. How about you, Immaculate?
We are in the thick of it, and it is, as we're seeing every single day now, and I think that's just going to continue right through the end of the season. So hold on. We got a lot coming at us, and I think that maybe even by the end of the week, this is quite hopeful, we might have a settlement, and looking forward to seeing some quick movement. We shall see.
All righty. I think that's it. Everybody, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night. Bob Thompson. And turn on those notifications so you know when the show's starting. Everybody else, stay out of trouble and peace out.